Hey everyone, this is Karla Johnston-Krase with Discover Your Center, and I'm here with Siris Rivas. We're having our second chat. We've had many. We had one that we actually recorded very recently because our conversations have been so fun. We both play with tools of access consciousness, but so many more tools when it comes to just kids and families and business and relationships and everything else. So we've been having a lot of fun, and last time really enjoyed doing it. So we're doing it again.
Yeah.
Siris, thank you so much. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I love it. Every time, one of the things that comes from our discussions, it just reminds me of the tools that work. It reminds me the power of acknowledgement, of us acknowledging and really looking at what works instead of everything we'd like to change and that's wrong. And then when we start from that space of acknowledgement, then I can ask, what would it take to have more of that? When I acknowledge what has been working. So you're such a gift to me. I enjoy our conversations so much. And one of the things we were kind of talking about right now, right before this recording, was that presence has been a key word in both of our lives in the last couple of weeks. With not knowing it, I didn't know that it was showing up in your life. I was showing up in mine. Where you were traveling, I was in another place. We were in different states. And you were using and playing around and considering what presence is like, and when somebody's not present, what that can look like sometimes when you're with family. Mm-hmm. I was kind of looking at it with relationships and business. How did it show up with your family this week?
Well, this week I went to Wisconsin to be with family, and my whole family of 5, we went, my sister, her 3 grown kids, and with my mom and my stepdad. And my mom has dementia and a stage of Alzheimer's, which is just an interesting world to be with and be present with. And then add all the big and small bodies together, right, in the same house. And I started just having this question about what is it to be present? Like, we show up, right? We all showed up in this place. And yet I was aware that somehow at moments, all of us did it sort of, we checked in and we checked out. We checked in and we checked out. And I did it too. And I was aware when I'm here, but I'm, like, my body's here, but I think I'm someplace else. Mm-hmm. And how do I, well, it's not even how do I, it was sort of the question of like, well, this is where I am. All right. So that's the allowance piece, which is part of the presence. Like, being willing to say, oh, I'm not present here, and not move into judgment. Like, now I'm a horrible daughter. I'm a horrible sister. I'm a horrible mother because I'm not totally present or mindful or whatever the word is. And, but just to be like, well, what would I like right now? And what does my body need right now? Do I need to go away? Like, do I need to ask for a little break and go have some time to myself? Or would I rather be right here, right now? And it doesn't really matter which one, but that I am, I think in the past I used to choose what I thought was right. And I'm more aware now that I can choose
whatever you choose.
And what feels like it's going to create the most for me, because when I choose what I think I should, then so much else builds and gets sticky in there. And with my kids too, just seeing them play around and how they would be totally present and then sometimes not, or and letting them choose that too. And yet sometimes there are times where we say, well, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. How can I assist you? What do you need to be here? Like, but not make them wrong for maybe not wanting to be totally on as grandchild, as daughter, in a role that usually has some expectations when all family comes together, right?
There's so many projections and expectations with family.
Yeah. So that's where it was. I mean, it was just sort of in all these areas of just being with family and being present. And it shows up in other areas of my life too. But that's just what we were just on vacation, and we were family together.
Inundated. You're just marinating in it.
Right. And because there's this distance, right? We used to live closer to family, and now because there's this distance, sometimes like I can feel myself saying, I need to be totally present for the whole thing, because then we're not going to have that time. And
how much of that is actually not acknowledging how much you're contributing to each other, even when there's a physical distance. Just because there's a physical distance doesn't mean that you're not contributing to each other and connected and, you know, like having each other's backs and all those different things. And sometimes that physical distance makes that easier. Maybe that's just my family.
No,
but it's been really great. It's been such a gift for me to not be living in the same state or the same country as most of my family, because then I can be more an allowance of what they're choosing instead of trying to take all of their stuff on, which is what I used to do, because that's what I thought I should do. Speaking of the shoulds. Yeah. And then after a while, then that was the expectation. Well, Siris is going to do it because that's what she's always done. And then I don't have to do it because like that's her role. That's her job. And it was very disempowering of them, I realize now, for me to be taking all of their stuff on and not sending them the message that they were capable of doing it themselves, and just actually asking, so how can I contribute to you? And being willing to say, being willing to hear them say, I don't need anything. You're good. You don't have to do anything, which for a long time I was not willing to hear that. And also willing to hear them say, no, yeah, that'd be great if you could pick me up here or do this thing here, or, you know, can I just get a hug? You know, can we just go and hang out and go for a walk and not really talk about anything, but just like be there for each other in that way and have an enjoyable experience in a different way. But there's a lot of those shoulds that get us out of being present. So instead of actually being everything that we are and everything that we could be and everything that we could create with our families, with business, with relationships, we start getting into those shoulds, and it just becomes this rabbit hole of toxic stuff and gets you away from what you really know. Like, one of the things that I loved when you were telling me about your time with your family is, I think it was your daughter that you said that even in the midst of all of that, she was able to totally be her and be present and like dance around and like be joyful. And that was just this lovely reminder, and part of why I love working with kids, because they remind you and they invite you to be you all the time, and whatever that looks like. And how many of us, I certainly have still working on this, how many of us stop ourselves from being totally present because someone else isn't being totally present. So you let someone else's lack of presence, lack of being there, lack of showing up, stepping up, creating whatever, stop you from choosing that. Even though you know, because you always know.
You always know.
You know that that's what's actually going to expand more. But you're just like, wait, what's going on there? Let me look in this person's reality. What's going on with their situation with their boyfriend, or what's their situation with their parent and this child? And instead of being like, do I even need to be in this? Or can I, like, is that really?
Yeah. No, that's so true. And it's interesting. I'll just say the tools of access, like playing with questions, has been really helpful. It's contributed so much to my sister and I and our relationship and the distance, and also just moving through. There's our mother, and there's also just lots of other, I call them life disrupting moments, because we all have them, the things that happen in our lives and in our family members, and how we are able to be present with each other and even acknowledge, like, or ask a question, like that whole contribution, like, is there anything I can do for you right now? And being open to whatever it is that would be a contribution. Because anytime I think we move in and we try to do something, and I have often been a doer, like a fixer, like I like to do that. But that's not kind. That's not really a kindness. If it's not something that is desired, or that someone's ready or willing to receive.
We don't like it when people push themselves on us.
Yeah.
And yet so many of us, me included for most of my life, would push myself on other people, like with this point of view that's what that I was being helpful and had to do that. And if we didn't automatically default to being helpful, I wonder what we'd be aware of. Like if we actually had the point of view that there was no problem at all to fix, because as soon as it's like, oh, where's the problem? You're looking for the problem. And if there's not a problem, you're going to find a problem or create one so that you can fix it.
Yes.
To be helpful and all those things. And it's like, well, more and more my default is, okay, what's right about all this?
I love that question.
It's one of my favorites. And that's one of the things that it's helped me become more present with everybody and including myself and my body. It's like, okay, what's right about this right now? What is going on truly? What is showing up? And just seeing what awareness I receive from that, instead of immediately how I used to function was, what do I need to do? What do I need to fix? Who needs my help? Where do I need to go? And like, it was all, and those weren't really questions, because it was more of a conclusion with the question mark attached. I was already concluding that there was a problem, that someone needed my help, and, all of those different things. And it's like, well, what if no one needed your help, including your kids? Then I wonder what you would choose. Like, I wonder how much more fun we could have if no one needed our help and there was absolutely no problems to fix.
Sounds so good.
It feels so good.
It feels so good. Expansive. Yeah, that question, like, what's right about this? That I'm not getting. I love that question. And when I first heard that question, started playing with it, there was a part of it that felt so big and beautiful and expansive. And there was a part of it that went like, some things I just don't feel like there's any gift in it. There's nothing right about it. But even that is an invitation just to recognize it. Because what I'm noticing is that just sort of being open to what's right about this I'm not getting is just, it's like coming back into the body and being like softening a bit and not trying to resist everything that's happening. So another thing going on in our family is that my husband has stage 4 cancer. Mm-hmm. And so that question in the beginning was just like, what's right about this? Like, nothing. But yet he and I have had these conversations just about the gift of overwhelming gratitude, or acknowledging what we've created in our lives. And that, sometimes people are diagnosed with something and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I got to do all these things that I never done in my life. And we both feel like we've been living our lives quite well and are enjoying it, that there's no panic in that. And if we weren't willing to, like, if we went into and we're two separate people, right? He does his thing, I do my thing with this, but me as the partner of someone with cancer and the mom of 3, if I were gonna, like, I could really be in a lot of trauma and drama. And I'll tell you, like, it comes up, but I feel like I used to be like, whoosh, especially around family, any member of family, just spiraling down into the trauma and drama. And now it's just like, oh, and what that is, it is
it's almost like it's on the periphery and you just like observe.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden I see, I'm like, oh, I have another choice. I don't have to go down that vortex. And that to me, like, if I had a visual, that's presence to me. Or because if I choose to be present, I'll recognize where I am. And then I have the choice to say, is that where I want to go? Or would I like to choose something different? And if I open up to what is the gift in this, that's the gift of awareness right there, that I could choose something else, right? And it doesn't mean, sometimes people, I think, misinterpret it and like that we're just ignoring all this over here. Like, no, Ben wakes up with cancer pretty much every day right now. And that's there. And I am aware. So it's not like there is no benefit in just pretending, it doesn't exist. But, we do, in yoga, it's like prana flows where attention goes. Mm-hmm. Where do I want more flow? Where do I want, where do I want to put my attention? What would I like to create? And if I'm not
put your attention there, then that's what's going to grow. You were saying too, it flows there and then it grows there.
It grows.
So would you like more of the cancer and more of the trauma and drama and more of the heaviness of the projections and expectations that a lot of people will impel on you as a parent, as a wife, as a mother, all these different things, as a business owner? Or would you like something else to glow and flourish?
Yeah. I did a video series called The Dynamic Tools I Use When I Feel Like I'm Falling Apart.
Ooh.
about a month after Ben's, I think maybe a month after, because what I became so aware of is there was this moment, like everybody was really projecting on me, like how I should feel, how we should be doing, how our kids should be doing, and really it was just more about their thing, not mine.
Yeah.
And I was aware of that in the beginning and felt like I could just really choose what was me. And it just sort of kept bombarding me like every day. And it was starting to feel a little bit heavy. And I was out on an errand and I bumped into a colleague of mine who hadn't heard the news of Ben's cancer yet. And she asked me and I told her and she was like, "Oh, Karla, you look so strong and amazing right now. Like the way you guys are doing this." And I went, that is what's true for me. Like everything about me expanded when everybody else was just sort of, this must be devastating. This must be so hard. This has got to be, I can't imagine what it would be like. And I had to tap into like, I am strong right now. Like this thing, no, like I would like, yeah, no, nobody wishes for cancer to pop in to their life. And it is here. So now I have a choice in how I always think of it as a dance because it has to change. Like
I use that too. I talk about the dance. Yeah.
I got to be willing, like every day, like I got to be willing to dance and change with it. And sometimes I step on its toes and it steps on my toes and it's not so graceful. And sometimes it really feels like it's flowing and, but not to make any of that wrong. And so that again is just being willing to be present with it. So not ignoring it. When I ask that question, what's right about this I'm not getting, or what's the gift in this? Some people think, well, that's just ignoring. It's not at all. To me, that's the invitation to be present with it and allow it to be rather than totally succumb to it or totally let it be in the driver's seat. And,
well, and here's the thing with that is like if you're not actually asking a question like that in whatever way you want to phrase it, be it what's right about this, what's the gift of this, then you're only left with the judgment and the heaviness, which is people's default. It's only everything that's bad about it. And we can be aware of the bad and the ugly with it and what's good and what's nurturing, what's a contribution to it. But if you don't even willing to open the door and like peek at the possibility that there may be something that is uplifting, that could be a gift in it, then all you have is the shit. All you have is the poo pile.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I'd like more of this world and more of my life to not just be the poo. There's plenty of poo, and I'm there's no way there's no ignoring the poo. The poo's right there. And there's also other things, other lovely things that maybe can grow from the poo. And I'm going to stop saying poo now. Okay. So before we let people go, how about we leave them with a tool that they can play around with however long it is till the next video, of how they can actually be more present with themselves, with anyone else that they're interacting with, like their children and their loved ones and family members. Do you have like a go-to that you like to play around with?
I do. I have a little mantra that I teach in all my yoga classes and with all my clients, and I use all the time. And it's simply, it's root down and rise up and expand out. And that is how, it's just sort of where I go. It reminds me like, be here. Like, it's almost like inviting myself into my body and connecting to the earth, and then expanding, like just reaching up to the skies. Always just makes me feel taller and stronger and longer. And then expanding out, like, I am not my problems. I am not my emotions. I am not my thoughts. Even no matter how real they feel, I'm big and I'm this big energy. And so when my mom is really requiring a lot of me, like, I am willing to trust that I can tap into a bigger source. And I do that in other ways, caring for me. But that is presence to me. And when my kids feel needy, all right, that I have that capacity, and I can root down to the earth, which is always gifting, and I can rise up to infinite source, and I can expand out my own being and my own energy. And I know that maybe sounds too simple sometimes, but I am the queen of complicating things, let me tell you. So if it can be this simple and I can do this, anyone can, because I have led a lifetime, decades of just making things way more complicated and complex than they needed to be.
Me too. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But
how does it get any better than that?
How does it? Do you have a tool? Do you have a different tool or way that you?
So many. One that's coming up right now as we've been talking is gratitude. And you've mentioned it a bit. We talked about it with acknowledgement, and there's a different space with gratitude for me is really actually taking a moment. I did this morning as well, taking a moment and saying thank you to the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and I explicitly, I didn't just say the good and the bad and the ugly, but that could work too. All of the good, the bad, and the ugly in my world, in everyone else's world, on the planet, like, yay, thank you. But actually looking at some of the things that had been crunchy this week and genuinely expressing gratitude for them. Like, and expressing gratitude for my body, for helping me move through the spaces and have fun and do the activities that I've enjoyed this week. Being grateful for my body, for the tears that it cried this week, if that's what showed up, and that definitely showed up for me this week. And just being like, yay, I'm so glad you released that instead of held it in and created solidification. So, there's just so many different ways where we can just be like, oh, that was so horrible that I cried, or that was so horrible that I had this pain, or that this client didn't show up, or that this child is tantruming, or all these different things. And it's like, yeah, get it out, kid. Be it the body, everything. And so looking at the things that are easier to be grateful for, like, oh, yay, I'm breathing. Thank you. I woke up today. That's already a miracle. That's awesome. Business is expanding. I have loved ones that all over the world. How does it get any better? And then also looking at some of the crunchy bits and asking, what is there that I could be grateful for here? Which is kind of another version of what's right about this, right? Or what's the gift in this? It's just another example of that. But really, I've been asking myself to be more explicitly, consciously grateful. And that's been helping through all the transitions that have been going on. So I'm going to add in yours because I love that one. That one's beautiful. And let's see, anyone who's watching this video, let us know what shows up when you play with those tools. What other ones might be a contribution? Like, let us know which ones work for you to help you be more present in your life, with your body, with your loved ones. We love hearing from you, and watch out for the next video that we might be posting.
Awesome. It's so fun chatting with you, Siris. Thank you.
Thank you, Karla.
Thanks, everyone out there.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.